Good evening, everyone. Silence in Crisis, Native Americans, Part 1. I do want to start off by stating that this is not about me. This is about using my voice on a platform to showcase the epidemic that is going on nationwide and in Canada. Anyone that takes any sort of videos or making fun of me being negative and saying all kinds of stuff, that just shows ignorance on their part. I am going in a positive direction with my platform. I stated this a few weeks ago that I wanted to go into a different direction, but I was not sure on how I wanted to go. This is the way that I want to go with this, because I've sat here and I've done research, I've watched, I've read, and what is going on in these communities is absolutely disgusting. I stand up and I fight against discrimination regardless. I will stand up and say that this is not right. Will I make a difference? Maybe, maybe not. But my voice is loud enough to reach someone who may be the person to make a difference. You never know when you start off with this how it's going to go. I can have a PowerPoint in my head, but that doesn't mean it's going to go straight, left, or right, or anything like that. I'm going to use my voice because it is loud. And if it educates people and brings awareness to the situation, then just maybe we can help one person, one family, something to have closure for the families that are suffering in this silence. So let's go ahead and begin. Starting out, this is not going to be a subject that everyone is going to agree on. And that's perfectly fine. If you do not want to be a part of this, you do not have to be. I, again, will want to bring some sort of education to an epidemic that is going on. Does the tribal communities have the same results as other communities nationwide? Some people may say yes, some people may say no, some people may be, they don't know because they don't know enough information and so forth. My opinion is no. This is where it kind of gets tricky and stuff, because you've got, tribal law, you have federal laws, you have the tribal communities, they have different laws and so forth, but they also try to follow the federal laws and stuff. So this is kind of a touchy situation, and there's a lot to it that I do not even understand. But one tribal community has 1.8 million acres, the size of Connecticut. When I heard this, I was like, wow, I never knew this. So I'm learning right along with everyone else. Only 2 tribal law enforcement officers to patrol 1.8 million acres. Now, I do want to say this. You do have tribal communities on their reserve land and so forth, but you also have Native Americans that do not live on the tribal communities as well. So this is going to be a mixture of both. Here's a map of Connecticut. Just imagine there's only 2 officers to patrol the size of this state. It's impossible. There's no way that you can do this. None whatsoever. You also need to remember that some of the tribal areas are sacred ground that they're not supposed to go onto and stuff. I find that interesting as well. This is the part that I was just kind of blown away about. Unfortunately, there's not a correct number of missing and murdered in the tribal communities. Some stats state since 2022 that there's over 57 missing, over 110 have been reported. Since 2022, over 4,200 are still unaccounted for and possibly missing or murdered. Now, why they state missing or murdered? Because it is an unsolved case. They have not found a body. So the person is technically missing unless they have information to provide them that the person has been murdered. And I want people to remember that when someone has been murdered, that victim has a voice. This is where other people can come in and speak on victims that have been murdered. Murder is a terrible tragedy that any family has to go through. And these families here of not knowing where their loved one is probably one of the saddest stories that I will ever share. So Katie Couric Media has a great story about this. She states that in 2020 alone, that there were over 52 reports of missing American Indian and Alaskan Native women and girls. Now, this figure here probably does not include the men and boys as well. And believe it or not, after researching and stuff, I have found out that there are men and boys that are missing as well. There is one case that I do want to dive into that is a transgender American Indian person. That case right there is just, I don't even have words for it right now. But they also state that in August, I guess in 2020, that they're saying that 280 missing have been reported in Alaska alone. There's probably way more than that. We just don't know. And that's the sad part and the sad truth of this epidemic that is going on. There's not a true number. There's not a database that can give us correct figures. So part of this article is stating that why haven't these women been found? The argument is that there isn't enough media coverage for women of color. Women of color can mean Black, Hispanic, American Indian, Asian, and so forth. The one thing that I think has been showcased throughout all of this is that missing white women have over 50% media coverage over women of color. Over 50% media coverage. The late PBS reporter, anchor Gwen, she stated that this is what they call the white woman syndrome. And I'm going to let that sink in your mind. And you can come out with the outcome of what you think. Over 51%. And why is that? Families with the unsolved cases have no idea if their loved ones are missing or murdered. Their loved ones just vanished. There are so many different victims in this stories of the epidemic that is going on that it is just, it's amazing. I can't even put it into words. And hopefully I can put it into words and showcase what the problem and where it lies and what needs to be done and if anything will ever be done. Because in 2024, we should not have any of this going on. Everyone should be treated the same. Everybody should have the same rights as everyone else. Civil rights and human rights are there for a reason. They're absolutely there for a reason. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop this part and finish up with the second part and see how this goes. Thank you, everyone.